Okay, so I was thinking about making a talk as I was walking, but since I noticed what the phone does when the wind is blowing a little bit, I decided to come home and make some notes about what I wanted to talk about. And I don't want to keep going over this stuff a bunch of times because I don't feel like it's a good, the best way to use to do efficient use of time management because there are so many things that I still want to learn how to do. So I want to, like, kind of, my inner voice said, bury the hatchet with some of these older issues and kind of explain how I interpret things so that that's a release. Okay. So I think that it was when I was first walking, I saw a jackrabbit, and he was just sitting in the field far away from me on the other side of a fence, just kind of staring around. And then when I walked up and turned around, he crossed the road, and he sat there perfectly still. I'm saying he. I don't know if it was a he or a she. He sat there perfectly still as I walked past him, which tells me, or it's a guide for myself to tell me that the animal trusts me, which I don't really quite understand animal spirits, but I do know that it's helpful to me when I notice things like that as to continue what you're doing. You're on the right path, okay? And also it makes me feel good that the animal is using his instincts and spirit to know that I'm of no harm to him. Okay. Now I'm not. I don't like to discuss people whenever I see people out, but I do have things sometimes that come up. Um, the reason why I don't like to discuss people is because there's a situation where I do not understand um, skits and whether or not people are putting on um, something false or fake to uh, provoke me. Like, I don't know. Like, so it's difficult for me to feel like I have feelings for people. And not something that needs to be known. I cannot tell what is going on with the person's morality because or their how they are as a person because I do not know them. And so I do not like to talk about people. It's like I've always been the type of person that tries to reframe things to see the good in people. And for a lot of my life, that might not have been a very good thing to do. But um, either way, I'm very self protective and I do not like to make my discussions about pointing out things I don't like about people who I don't even know. If you can see the behaviors that I practice in myself, the things that I do, then you know what it is that I value. And even further than that, you know that because of the things that I talk about. And even further than that, I am aware that I have so many things around me that seem to know about me, and I don't know about, exactly what's going on the other side of that. But I know that every single thought that creeps up and thing that I think about is not just some random occurrence. So I'm just, I'm not going to be like that about people. I have to turn things inwards towards myself. So, and in on the thoughts um, of punishment, as far as changed behavior goes, and comparing that to a voodoo circumstance. Voodoo is not going to work on me, because if I have changed my behavior, then I am not going to be susceptible to following the, or not following, imitating somebody else's bad behavior, because I've already changed myself. And on the other side of that, I am not going to be like this and pointing my finger at them about how they could change, because I am not their boss. Okay? I am not their boss. And whoever it is, you can tell by looking at a person what they think is important. Okay? And then, like I said, I've already gone over that. So that is not that is not something that I can participate in. Okay? I've made that clear with what I wrote about this morning. Now, as far as like, if you think of anything in terms of a mirroring situation, that's part of my rebellious attitude. I do not copycat people. Okay? If I want to do something, I obviously think it is important to do. Now, and that is an adaptable, flexible, changeable thing that will continue to happen throughout my life. Okay? Like, there's a difference between trying to copy someone to get them to have, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about, to get them to understand the consequences of their own. This is a voodoo type thing. You're some fake actor is trying to mirror you acting out what you're doing, so that you'll understand what you're doing is bad or good. But that kills relationships, and it doesn't work, because if you are naive or foolish, that means that you don't understand what you're doing is bad. Okay? And if someone joins you in that behavior, you're not going to wake up to it, that to recognize that it is bad, until you have had the fear of God in you, because of what happened, because of what you were doing. That mirror situation doesn't work. Okay? And once you've broken the mirror, then you realize that that wasn't even a relationship that you could depend upon, because both the people failed to care about each other the way that they should have. Instead of joining in and doing something bad together to teach each other some sort of lesson or whatever was going on between them, one of them being stupid and one of them being smart, whatever the situation is, I wouldn't be able to say, because I don't have the information to know what was going on in the minds of any friends or family that I was ever around. Okay? I don't have that information. So that mirror breaks. It's not a good mechanism to teach people empathy. Teaching people empathy is not to say, here, let me show you what you're doing, because that's sort of the other person killing their own self to teach you a lesson. Like, not killing yourself physically, but like they're left their conscience to show you something that you're not going to understand until you've experienced the consequences of it. Okay? And that takes time. Okay? That takes time. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up was I had it heavy on my heart about this story, since we brought up my grandmother, about the story about how she died. Now, okay, so if you think about this, you're given many chances in life to correct yourself, right? And if she had her colon removed after because of pain pills, and she wasn't recognizing that that was it, or she didn't care that that was the reason, or I don't know what. And she went back for morphine, and what my mother said happened to her was that um she woke up when she had her her like her chest cavity opened on the operating table, and she experienced a very painful death. It makes me feel sickened to think about that, but I also question if she got punished for doing that to her body after she went back for more painkillers after the body part was taken out of her. And so yes, I can learn from that, but it makes me feel terrible to have to think about that, and concerned and protective of myself. Now, another thing that she always had to do was sit in this chair with leg compression things and compression socks, trying to get the swelling out of her body. And I did not know that that was a result of medication. I, like, of course, like I said, I was naive to things like that. Obviously, I've had to learn the truth in many ways myself, but these are things that I think should have been educated to us. Now, I can't know her frame of mind or what she was thinking. I know my frame of mind. I did not connect the things together. And so um yeah, it feels like a painful experience when I have to think about things like that, and to wonder about why my mother experiences swelling and things like that, and what she's putting in her body. It concerns me. It concerns me. Okay? And I, like, I can make these videos and I can talk about it, but as far as trying to base my life on trying to go back home and save my family, I have to think about trying to protect myself now and see what good I can do. I don't know what they're thinking, or what is going on in their minds, because we're not having those kinds of discussions. But I do think it's purposeful that I know this information. So, um, the other thing I was thinking about was how the money system is, where too many things are externalized to be talking about your body. And as a child, I did not know that. And I think it's dangerous to practice things like that without making sure that it is known what you're doing to yourself, such as like um, a person who invests all their money in like a healthcare savings plan, and they're not actually taking care of their health every single day. Those things do not make sense. Um, and the same is true about a retirement fund, about not living your life until you think you're going to get to the end of your life, and you're saving all this money for that day. Those are not good practices to encourage people to do, because you need to get the most out of each day. You're not there is nothing to get to at the end, or even if there is something to get to at the end, I don't think it would be a very good ending if you're not living like you should today. Now, as you can see, that I look like I am frightened a little bit, and that is because I do get frightened when I talk about these kinds of things, because I'm going a little bit away from myself to talk about other people, and I don't I don't enjoy doing that because it's not my territory, and that's why I said I don't want to do these type of videos very often. But I am talking about which kinds of psychological constructs I am trying to tear down or I have torn down, and I will do another video about what kind of psychological constructs I'm trying to build to go along with the house construction. Okay, so another example is that I said, like, it doesn't make sense about going on camping trips and getting these big fancy RVs and all these things when you have all of that kind of, I'm not going to call it junk, but luxuries at home, probably, depending upon how your house is. Why can't you just go stay in a tent or something like that? I do not understand the purpose of some of those things. And then also, I don't understand the purpose of not taking very good care of yourself and then getting these, or not necessarily not taking good care of yourself, but buying a large generator in case and I'm talking about the kind that has like a fuel line to propane gas, and it's gonna save you if the the electricity goes off the grid or something like that. Well, the idea does not make sense because all of those products that you're trying to protect yourself from other people with are being supplied to you by other people. Okay, so if you really had trust, or then you wouldn't, if you really had, okay, if you have trust issues about thinking that you can't depend on people, then it does not make sense to me that you would buy a bunch of products from people to depend on people in case you can't depend on people. Okay, that's my main thing about that. If you really had trust issues, then I think that you would do more things that were like Boy Scout behavior, and by that I do not mean selling cookies. I'm against that type of Boy Scout behavior. Door to door salesman is not Boy Scout behavior. I'm talking about you learn how to do things like foraging for food, or growing your own food, figuring out how to can your own food. Um, uh, I think it would be a better idea to insulate your house in a way which that you wouldn't have to depend upon a fuel line if there was any kind of emergency situation where your house was warm enough for you or cool enough for you with the way that you did your walls. That seems like a smarter plan to me. Um, okay, and then there was another thing that I wanted to bring up, which is I thought it was concerning or alerting to me that that my mother wanted a cast iron bathtub, which weighs, I think, like hundreds, if not 1,000 pounds. And then she was upset that getting that in the house scratched her floors. And so, like, I just don't understand why you would base that kind of importance on an external feature instead of like maybe valuing the time of what it took to get something like that inside of your house. So that's kind of like a morality thing. And like I said, this is the only video where I'm going to be talking about other people, okay? Because like I carry a sense of guilt within myself anytime I go shopping, because um I don't like the feeling of not knowing how to give of myself, really, and like in an equal sort of way based on what I'm taking in for myself. And I also like have this so many um rehabilitation type things that I've had to work through to get myself to be able to think well enough to um, function, um, without being like a brainless person wandering around hoping that people will give me good enough instructions. And so that's the reason why I don't want to be away from home. It is very important for me to get my head on straight. But I do carry a sense of guilt about shopping and not knowing like what it is that I can have to give in a um, goodwill sort of way. So any kind of story I hear like about some things that might not be necessary, maybe I don't judge that too much, but I will bring it up. Now here's an example of something that happened when I asked for help, and this is like a story that will help you understand my circumstances. Okay, I was trying to learn construction, and I was fearful about installing the toilet because my brother told me that um, that sewage gas would kill me. Okay, so I wanted to have my dad help me do it, and then when he came over and brought his the he said that it was his plumber, that he said, "Oh, we'll come over because we don't have anything to do and we'll entertain ourselves." Okay, well, then they told me to, when I was asking for instructions, they told me to over tighten toilet, um, the toilet screw, which I recognized I would not have done that if I wasn't asking for help. But I also would not have known how to do a lot of the other things that I was trying to learn, because I didn't know about anything about the how to cut the drain pipe, or how to sand it down, and what the flange was. I didn't know any of that stuff, which my dad taught me. But then that extra little thing with the toilet breaking, like, made it so that I would feel like I needed to stop bothering him. Okay, and then so I had thought, okay, well, there are some things that are not like such valuable uh, things that you should prioritize in your life. But then with that idea, I have this thing in my mind that I want to get a golden toilet because it's like a memory thing about how it feels. Like sometimes you have to ask for help, and sometimes you um, you regret it, and sometimes you have to look at both the good and the bad in that type of situation to balance yourself out. Because I have now formed the tendency, because I don't want someone to do that to me, that I'm going to try to learn how to do as much as I can. And it's better for me to do it mostly myself, because I get the feeling that I am hated or somebody dislikes me if they try to give me a bad instruction, so that it breaks something, or I have to learn how to do a repair job. Now, whether that be on myself or on my house, I just don't want to go through that anymore. And so I don't know about the golden toilet thing. It's much more, the golden toilets are much more affordable than they used to be. But it's like, yeah, it's not necessary. But it's like some things in life that you're just like, I don't want to be so serious all the time. I want to do like this one little thing that kind of soothes me out of this these feelings that I have to feel bad about trying to learn things and being a burden on people. And so that's that story. Okay. And now I still don't know what I'm gonna do. I probably will get the golden toilet, but I like I can't stand feeling like this. You know, it feels good when you're able to take care of yourself. It does not feel good when you try and include other people in it. And that's another thing I'm wrestling with about wanting to have children, because I'm not so sure that I'm certain, because there's many things that I would not be willing to do in as far as punishment goes. I just wouldn't, to spare myself from pain. Um and so, like, I wanted to point out that one of the big reasons why I'm such, like, well, I'm a fanatic about exercise, and I'm a fanatic about learning how to do house construction, because I do not want to end up um, helpless. And so those are things that I do. It's the same as with the gardening. Those are all things that I do so that I don't end up in a situation where I'm receiving bad instructions that I'm going to have to work even harder to try and fix, instead of just doing it the way I think of the first time around, when and then I don't have to go back and make corrections. And so that's the idea going on for psychological constructs. Okay, we will be doing another video about um, the building of psychological constructs, but there is, like, you can tell that exercise and construction are two exercise, construction, and gardening and animal care are four ways that I try to build myself with. Okay, and there what else? There's counseling, communication, counseling. Okay, now I am naturally um sort of a polite and considerate person. I'm just trying to figure out how to do that, because, um, I sort of think that keeping my mouth closed and being quiet is a polite and considerate thing to do. And so is not forcing my opinions and um, ways of life on other people, because I wouldn't like it if somebody did that to me. But I also don't think it's fair that I don't find some kind of outlet to reveal the the way that I think of the world, so that for any reason that I might be able to be um, placed in a circumstance where I can give more of myself, which is very important to me. I don't know exactly where I'm headed with that, and that is my conclusion about children. I am I'm not so sure here lately. I am not so sure, but it's not a closed door. It's just there's some things that need to be talked through about how it would be affordable to my soul.